I don't know if have you ever done anything with like scoring or putting music to like story kind of image? I mean, I guess with like a music video, it's the exact same thing. I mean,
you have music and then you sort of create a visual based on the music. Whereas like usually with your scoring or doing something with a movie, you have a scene and then it's like, okay, what music should go here? Actually, Rocky is scoring a little bit of Colossal Youth.
Oh, sweet.
So
That's awesome.
he kind of has done that, and he sort of watches a scene and sort of interprets the story and emotion, and then he's feeling it and he's in that moment, and then he just sort of plays what he feels.
I think that's just something I've tried so many times to write songs, and it just ends up sounding like whatever I listen to. So I think it's an amazing thing. But I always find it fascinating how, at least when I'm editing, sometimes I'll literally be like watching something and I'll go, there's some kind of music that I can hear in my head, but I can't describe.
Yeah.
And I've only been able to work with a composer once, but like sometimes it's just literally like searching through royalty-free music. And it's an amazing thing when like you go, like you hear something and you just like instinctively go, no, that's not it. That's not it. You're like looking for this mysterious, I don't even know what it is, and all of a sudden you hear it and you go, that's it. That's it. And that's fascinating to me. I don't know what it is my subconscious is rejecting or responding to.
Yeah.
Question for you: how do you listen to music? I know for me, this was me as a kid. This is why I always thought maybe I should try to get into making stories, because whenever I was a kid, and even now, when I listen to an album, I don't really listen to like just like think about the music so much as the first thing I think of is images in my head.
Right.
Like when I listen to, I don't know, Coldplay or something, they're a very like cinematic thing, but I literally put their songs on, and sometimes I kind of get lost and like I like forget what they're singing about, because I'll start to hear something and feel something, and all of a sudden I'm like, in my head I'm like, we fade in on a dark story. Like I'm like it paints pictures in my head.
You're already making a movie to the song you're hearing.
Is that cool. Normal, or is that, I don't know. What do you?
I think everybody has their own sort of a thing. Because I'm a musician, I hear every little different piece of thing that's going on. Whereas
you're thinking about kind of process as you're hearing it.
Yeah, and I've sort of been working, especially this past year, to kind of turn that off and just listen to how everybody else in the world listens to it, non-musicians, I mean, because basically someone who's a non-musician, and not that this is a bad thing or a good thing, but they're gonna hear a song just as the song. It all comes as one thing, everything's happening at the same time, whereas I'll hear a song, and I'll hear the bass line, I'll hear the drum parts, I'll hear the extra percussion bits, I'll hear the guitar parts, I'll hear the key parts. I can hear everything individually.
Right, you see the painter painting.
Yes, and exactly.
I'm the same way with like watching a movie. Like it, I don't know if it's good or not, but like
like you probably watching a movie, you see the camera guys.
The camera moves, and I go, oh, I wonder if that's a dolly shot. Oh, I feel like, I wonder, like
you go, oh, that's a steady cam. You can see the guy moving. You see the direct. You see behind the camera. Because that's what you do.
My definition now of like what I consider like a movie that I love is when I forget about that.
Yeah,
like when I'm watching and I'm literally like, I just made a face where I look like a zombie. Like where I realize like nobody can see what I'm doing. Where I forget the process. That to me is when, and I don't know if we're ever gonna be able to totally separate from that. But that to me is when I know a piece of music or story is really effective, is when I stop thinking about production and I just go, oh, I just feel something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, like I said, something I've been working on, especially with music. Just to sort of be able to turn off that part of my brain and just hear it as a consumer. With movies, I'm very fortunate because for some reason I think just because it's it's like the movie theater. I can sit down and I instantly go into like movie watching mode, and I don't see anything unless I purposely think about it. As far as like seeing the movements of the camera, I'm so engulfed in just the story and the emotion of everything. Like I catch myself, especially now as I get into more acting and stuff, and I'm trying to like become a better actor. any sort of deep emotion within the characters, I start feeling.
Right.
And I just kind of let it come and go and just experience what that feels like, as I'm like so in the movie watching.
I just saw a screening of this movie called Arrival. With
Oh yeah, how was that?
it's amazing.
Oh,
It's
okay,
amazing.
we gotta go see that.
And Amy Adams was at the Q&A,
Uh-huh.
and something I got to ask her, I said, like, without giving it away, she has to experience a lot of really deep emotions that happen. Things are connected to each other that are not connected in time, but are connected in certain other ways. She's experiencing flashbacks and flash forwards, all these kinds of things.
Uh-huh.
And I just said, I was like, what is that like? And somebody else also asked, like, what is your process? And she said something so beautiful, which I thought was amazing. And also, speaking of music, the score in that is just incredible. She goes, I don't really have a method. She goes, my whole thing is empathy. My job is to feel something so that the audience can feel something.
Yeah.
And she said something like so beautiful. She was like, the fact that you can sit there in a chair and feel something that happened ages ago is remarkable. And I think that's the coolest thing about the mix of music and sound, is that I can sit, like you said, in a theater, and I can watch a two-dimensional image of people who aren't there, who did this far away and sometimes years ago,
Yeah.
and have a physical reaction.
Yeah.
That's like magic to me.
That is totally
It's
magic.
all fake. Nothing is real. And it like reaches out, and I'm like, I can feel. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, well, that's a crazy thing to think about. I've never thought about it that way, but like these, if you've seen two characters, they're pretending to feel this way, and
Right.
we actually feel it watching them.
Right, and that's empathy. That's a step beyond. Yeah, it's amazing. So, question for you. Speaking about, like, because I know you were saying earlier, I think you love touring, right? I mean, I would, if I had to guess, it seems like you love live performance. That's
Yes.
like your passion, right? And coming from the theater, I think I'm the same way, where there's nothing like having a real audience there. What do you think about kind of where music and even movies are headed, where more and more and more we have it so accessible and so available, but it is kind of almost limited? I had a conversation recently where a friend of mine was like, I just feel like we've lost the movie going experience, because a lot of times it's like, well, I could just watch it at home. I could just watch it at home. And I did. I watched Arrival actually at home. And but after I'd seen it in theaters. And I won't say it wasn't good. It was great the second time. But to sit in a theater in the dark and to have this thing like cascade over me and like just be just like lost in it was amazing. And then I watched it at home, and it's like there's my cat and my phone and my computer, and and it was great. But it's like, oh, I'm going to stop and go grab a snack. And it was not as I was moving. And then I recently saw a concert. It was Relient K.
Nice.
One of my favorite bands. They just put out an album, and I love their album. And I've been playing in the car, and I was like, yeah, this is great. And then I went and saw them at the Palladium, and it was like, oh, it's so good. Like, just such a more enriched experience. What is I don't know. What do you think about when you, as a musician who does both things, both studio work and obviously touring is such a big part of what you guys do? Are there pros and cons? I mean, I don't know. How do you bring people together and keep them coming for the live thing, but also make it an experience they can have on their phone or whatever?
I think with us, it's just like we make them not so different, but they're two separate events, really.
Right.
Like the live show, the album is an experience in itself, but it's like all thought out and it's done and it's everything's really like, yes, it's very meticulous. But then the live show is spontaneous and it's in the moment. And if you didn't, it's not like Spotify where it's like, it came out yesterday, I'll listen to it tomorrow kind of thing.
Right.
If you don't show up in that moment to see the show, you don't have that experience. It's,
right.
And each show is not completely different, but each show has a different just moment or experience that happens. And I think,
well, case in point, I just went last night. I saw Louis C.K. is a stand-up comedian. I saw him on tour 2.5 months ago at the Forum. It was amazing. Did 90 minutes, killed it. And then I went last night again. A friend of mine had tickets, and I thought it's the same tour. And I thought, oh, I wonder if I'm going to see the same jokes. And I did. Half of them were the same, but totally different at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think I had a better experience the second time around watching him do something that I was so surprising and yet also familiar. And that to me is like what a great concert is when you go and you go like, this is familiar, but this is something I could only experience here.
Exactly. And I think that's why people will come, because, even though things are so accessible, concerts will never be, there's nothing, you can watch a live DVD, but it's not nearly the same as being there in person.
Right.
And I know exactly what you're talking about with the stand-up comedian. I saw Jerry Seinfeld in San Antonio, and then I saw him again in Vegas, and it was the same show, similar jokes, but it's a totally different experience.
Right.
And same thing, like you said, it was like I thought I laughed equally as hard both times,
right,
just because he was so good.
Right, and he was responding to the crowd and the energy.
Yes.
Yeah. It's weird, though. I saw, and I won't say what show, but this is kind of where it's strange to me with theater, because I feel like concerts and comedy kind of have that flexibility to change each night. I saw a tour of a musical that I had seen in New York, and it's kind of the opposite experience, where I saw it in New York, and I was like, this is incredible, and it was life-changing. And then I saw the tour come through, and it was literally beat for beat, moment for moment, like the different actors, the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, huh, that's weird. And they were great. I mean, they were good. It was interesting to see the difference between the approach of like, let's keep it fresh for the audience that's here versus this is literally the same thing no matter where we go.
It's a lot harder to do. I haven't done that much theater, but I think in that aspect it's a lot harder to do because there's so many moving parts. Like everybody's got to be on their stuff. It's got to be rehearsed. Whereas like a concert where it's just 5 of us, we can kind of, I'd say 90% of the time we're switching 2 or 3 songs every night. Like,
well, and even going, I think I've been to 4 or 5 of your guys' shows. And
yeah.
The thing I think I love about it is, your music has this energy to it, but when you see you guys on stage, I don't know anybody that has more fun on stage than like you guys performing. Like I really you get that sense, and it's just not something you can get listening to an album. But at the same time, the album hopefully is what would get people to come.
Exactly.
Experience.
Yeah. You want to make an album that is captivating and interesting and fun to listen to in your car and your headphones, to where it's like, oh, this is fantastic. I want to go see this live and have a totally brand new experience with these songs that I love.
Right.
I think that's the ultimate goal.
Right. I remember when we were doing the Glue tour, I thought it was interesting. Do you remember I don't remember the guy's name, but he was the vocal or music director.
Musical director. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wife was the bass, and he played keys. Chris Poole.
Yes. Yeah. And something he was saying that I thought was so fascinating is he was like, doing that scale of a concert tour comes with its own semantics, because he was like, a lot of times people don't necessarily want to have a new experience. They want to hear the thing that they heard on the thing. And he said it's a tough thing, because then you're trying to match this studio encapsulated kind of made for film moment, made for TV, but then like make it work on a gigantic scale.
Yeah, there's definitely a moment where it's like, yes, people are coming to hear, what they've been listening to for the past month or whatever. So there's definitely a step too far that you can go, where everything is so different that it's just like, I don't even really recognize this song, kind of a thing. But so what we try to do, at least, is I try to set up the songs. I have the favorites.
Right.
Pretty much played. A very similar. It's a live version of the record,
right,
but it's the same song. And then you have a couple songs where you change the arrangement up, and you change it up because we've been playing that song for the last 5 years. You put a new spin on it, and it's refreshing. You know, so there's definitely a step too far. That I totally know what you're talking about.
That's awesome. Wait, I have another question on here. Do you have a favorite story, whether it's in the form of film, a TV show, a book, an album? Is there something like that you return to over and over and over? That, because I always say, like, people say, what's your favorite movie? And I go, my definition of my favorite thing is not the thing that I go, oh, critically, that is the most. It's the thing that I go, every time it comes on, I don't care what I'm doing.
Yeah. I
will stop, I will listen, I will watch, I will read. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, is there something like that in your life?
There's definitely a few. Movies I can watch my favorite movies over and over and over. Pirates of the Caribbean
Yes.
is definitely one of those. I love every single one of those. And it's just all aspects of it. I think
Those are great because those are like movies that like I love movies that are adventure fantasy that go, this is fun. This is not like think about your life after.
Yeah.
It's like no, this is fun and you should have a blast.
exactly.
It's nice when movies do that, you know.
Favorite, if I had to pick probably favorite story though, I think the movie About Time has the best story. I think it's
Wait, I'm not
so
familiar with
brilliant.
this.
Have you not seen About Time?
No.
Oh my god.
Wait. About Time. Was that the Justin Timberlake one?
No.
That's a different one.
That one was In Time.
In Time. I was like,
I think it was In Time. I don't know. About Time. It's
Googling this right
Rachel McAdams.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And
Okay.
he closes his fist and he goes back in time.
I have seen this movie. I'm also in love with Rachel McAdams, so of course I've seen this movie. Yeah.
So
And that's the guy from Star Wars,
Dom
Gleason,
yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, he's great. Okay, yes.
Phenomenal actor.
That's a great
Have
movie.
you seen him in Dread?
Yes.
He plays like the computer hacker guy. He's a
also
phenomenal actor.
He's also in an episode of Black Mirror. Which,
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the, like season 2. Which
Okay,
is phenomenal.
I got to start this show.
Have
Anyways,
you seen Ex Machina? He's also
yeah,
great in that.
yes, great in Ex Machina. Yeah, he's so phenomenal. He's totally different in all his characters. I think that's such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But anyways, About Time, story-wise, I love from the second it starts to the very, very ending I love every single moment in between. I think
That's awesome.
I think that story absolutely is like one of the best in my opinion. I love it. I've seen that movie so many times and I love it equally every time I see it.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I think like having a favorite, because I know sometimes I feel like with like every year there's like a top 10 list or there's like I've kind of begun to resent the like idea of like having your like critical picks because I'm like sometimes there's something just like I can watch a movie and go I understand why that is a great film that is or I can hear an album or something but at the same time there's certain things that I go I can't explain it but this like speaks to me on like a deep level and I don't know why and it's just like this is like me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's that's what I just when I went to the Reliant K concert, it was so cool because like you know they played some of their new stuff which I love, but they played some of this old stuff that I grew up with when I was like 12 and 13, and like it was like punk rock was like oh my god this is so cool, and just to have like 20 other people all like shouting the lyrics, and it's like you guys get it right. This is what we love this, you know, like you can feel like we all know this in our bones, and I just thought that must be the coolest thing as a musician when people know your stuff.
It is that's like probably the best thing that happens.
Do you ever do the thing where you like stop playing and have them all sing?
Oh yeah.
That must be the coolest thing
That's
ever.
the coolest thing ever because it's they're singing lyrics that you wrote back to you louder than you could ever sing it.
That's so cool.
It's the coolest thing. That's one of my favorite parts. I just like being on stage and entertaining, you know, but when they sing back the songs, that's definitely a highlight.
Yeah, because
every
that
time.
means that they've taken ownership of what you made. And for me, like that's the coolest thing about whether it's music or movie or whatever, creating a story is when people begin to feel it as though it was their own.
Exactly.
Now that can come with a caveat, which is, you know, when I've seen people turn against creators or I don't know how you feel. I have this really big beef when like a band or somebody like changes their sound and then people are like, oh, they changed. I'm like, yeah, they changed because they're people. Like, for example, I love Green Day. I love Green Day. And one of the like things that some old Green Day fans say is like, oh, they're not punk anymore. They're not. I liked them when they were. And I was like, well, yeah, they're in their 40s and they have kids. Like their thoughts and their what they're concerned about and what they're moved by changes. So I love change. I love seeing change in musicians and artists and filmmakers and writers. I think it's cool. But where was I going with that? The idea of ownership. Yeah. That like when somebody loves something that you made so much that they begin to theorize and think about it like as though it was theirs. I just think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do with stuff I love, you know? I go, oh my God, if I was writing, I would do this and I would do this and I would do this. And that's a good thing within reason, I think.
I think so too. Yeah. Especially the whole with musicians, and bands, evolving and changing. It's just, it's sort of like a friendly reminder that we're all human. And our opinions change, and our beliefs change, and what we like changes. It's all okay. It's okay. Change is totally fine.
Do you have like certain concepts or sounds or anything that you've like wanted to do, but then been like, oh, I don't know yet if this is like, I don't know. Like, I feel like sometimes there's some things that I've like gone, man, I would love to put this out there, but like, I don't know if people are ready for me to do that.
Yeah.
Like I've written some like stand-up comedy that I'm like, oh, I'd love to do this, but to certain people, they might be like, what are you doing? That doesn't sound, I don't know. How do you know how to push the envelope with still respecting and honoring what people love about what you do already? You know what I mean? To show them change and then also like make them feel like this is the person I know. That must be hard. You don't have to answer. I'm just curious.
No, I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I'm kind of fortunate in that way where I kind of just do what I like, and I kind of just do what I want to do, kind of thing. I don't. I definitely take into perspective like what our fans have, what they respond to and what they like, what their favorite songs are, and we try to, we at the end of the day, we want to make our fans have another favorite album,
right?
So we're constantly thinking about like what they want, but at the same time, there's 5 people in the band, so there's 5 different opinions.
Right.
I really want to make just a straight up rock and roll record, and it's kind of like, well, we're in 2016, and that's not really a thing at the moment. I think it'll come back,
right?
But I basically would. The record I would want to make would be like, Led Zeppelin 2. Like that would be that.
Right.
If it was like, all right, Riker, you're in charge of making the album and we're going to do whatever you want to do. That's probably what it would sound like.
Right. I think it's interesting because, creators, you need parameters. I don't know. Because if you look at like, to me, I like the people that I love are the people who do exactly that, where they go, I understand that there's certain things I have to do, but I also am going to change it up. Yeah. I feel like when you watch, like, for example, like the endless just like rehash of sequels and reboots and stuff that comes out film wise, sometimes those movies just feel like you guys just tried to engineer something that you thought people would just like want to pay to see.
Yeah.
Instead of showing it, because that's like what I loved about, I don't know, like Arrival or something. It's like, man, it hits some of those beats, but it does something that I'm like, well, I never thought you could do this with a movie.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to do that. You don't want to alienate an audience, but like you have to be willing to say,
to try new things.
These are ideas, and we're going to put them out there, and I hope you like them. And if not, like, well, we tried. Because if you just try to do something that people will like, I just feel like it kind of ruins what you have to say. If that's your only goal.
Yes, and if you're constantly just trying to put something out there that people will like, you're never going to come up with anything new.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, they like this, so let's do that, because they already like that. If you had that mindset about it, you would never have anything new and what's the word I'm looking for?
Like the change,
not organic, but authentic.
Authentic. Hey, that's a good word.
You would never have anything authentic to like yourself and who you are, because
I think
we're all different.
Have you seen The Shining?
No, I actually haven't.
Great movie.
I'm not too well with horror movies.
Well, one of the things about it is when it came out, it was a critical disaster.
Really?
People, like, it was very different and very like not what people were expecting. And I think people like just critically were like, this is terrible, and Stanley Kubrick has lost it. And it like took people years to go like, oh, that guy like changed the game.
Yeah.
And like years later, people were like, this is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting when things come out and people are like, oh, no. But you go, I think in the 10, 15 years, this thing is going. I mean, you like look at musicians who utterly changed the genre. I'm sure people were like, no, this would never catch on.
Yeah.
But now we all look at, certain musicians and go, wow, that's iconic.
There's so many stories with musicians of like the group of people, that are working with them, and they're doing their best to steer the musician in the right direction. Like Justin Timberlake with Sexy Back, for example. Everybody that was working with Justin was like, whatever you do not release that song. Like it's a disaster. People are going to laugh in your face. And him and Timbaland were like, no, I think this is gonna be the single. We're gonna roll with it. And it's like it's huge.
It kind of became his like sound.
It's just like it's such a massive hit. And and they were just like, no, we're gonna go with it. And it's so different. Like there's nothing like that song. Even today, there's really nothing that's just it's got its own thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you have things to do.
No worries, man.
Last question. Do you have, like, I don't know, any kind of, like, bucket list of sort of new stories and ways you want to tell them? I mean, what are the things that you go, I haven't done that yet, but man, like, that's for me with this podcast. It's something I, for years, have been like, I want to do it. And then it was like, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
I don't know if people will like it, but I want to do it.
I love that, man.
Is there anything in your kind of peripheral vision where you go, I want to take a crack at that?
I want to be on a sitcom, I think.
Oh, yes.
I think that sort of like storytelling, within 30 minutes, I think that is a really cool, it's a really cool thing because it's just different than any other sort of form of storytelling, really. You have music and you have concerts, which are sort of like pieces of stories at a time, and then you have a movie that's a full 2-hour experience. Or a TV show that's an hour, But then these little these sitcoms that are so funny. Like I've just been going through the whole catalog of How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, I love that show.
That is so like I want to be on the next How I Met Your Mother. I think
we should write
one.
We should do it.
Oh,
because that is also my dream.
In today's world, there's so many opportunities to just do it yourself, man. Yeah. Let's freaking do it. I'm totally in.
I have like 6 ideas that like I can. I love sitcoms. I think they're just so much. The thing about like How I Met Your Mother is it can be so funny and then on a dime, like rip your heart out and make you. And the thing like even like my favorite show ever is The Office, and The Office is like such a silly like premise of a show. But there was no show which has had more of an impact on me. Because those characters, because I've lived with them so much, and I can go anytime I want. And there's so much of them. That's like something with a movie. It's like there's 2 hours and that's it, and you can rewatch it a bunch. But I like television. I love shows that I love. There's so much of them. It's great.
Yeah,
you could just like every week you get to live with them some more, and it's my favorite thing.
I would be 100% down to work out a sitcom idea with you,
guys. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Yeah, we're gonna.
Kurt and Riker show.
Totally down. I think
like The Odd Couple, but like I don't know, like a 19. Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting.
Absolutely, I feel very honored to be the first guest.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for you to have chosen me to be the first one.
This is a lot of fun. Where can people find more of your stuff? I'm not like anybody's not, but just in case, the 2 or 3 of you, where can we follow you, find you, get more of your stories?
All of my social media is Riker Riker R5, band R5. So that's Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I don't really use Snapchat that much. I'm more of an Instagram kind of a guy, but occasionally I'll post something that is funny to me on there. But follow me, and I love promoting things that I love, and I love supporting my friends. So follow me, and you'll get to see a bunch of other cool, talented people.
And we can expect maybe a new album in the near future.
New album in 2017 from R5 for sure.
Very exciting. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you soon. A huge thank you to Riker Lynch for being so kind and accommodating and letting me come into his home and take over his dining room. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I actually learned so much about him as an artist, and I had a blast talking with him, and I'm so glad that I got to share that experience with you guys. Be sure to check for his 2 films coming out this year, Colossal Youth and Voyeur, both slated for a 2017 release, and a new R5 album, which is very, very exciting. Not that you're not already all following him, because I'm pretty sure you are, but just in case, be sure to follow him at Riker R5 pretty much on every single platform he has. And guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please consider going to our Patreon page at patreon.com/storymatters and consider becoming a patron. The whole idea of this show is to be able to take it on the road and actually go into the homes and spaces of artists and
meet them right where they are, right where they create. And that's a really exciting, special thing that I want to continue. I want to be able to take it beyond just Los Angeles. I want to be able to take it on the road and be a traveling show, if you will. New York, Chicago, even the UK. There's so many places that I know people that I would love to sit down with, and your support for the show on Patreon will go directly towards the production and post-production and travel expenses, better equipment, all those things to hopefully make a better show and make a show that allows me to meet more artists and bring their stories to you. So, if you like what I'm doing here, please take a moment to visit our Patreon and consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/storymatters. As a reminder, you can listen to all episodes of Story Matters for free on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, etc. And you can follow me on Twitter at Story Matters Pod, and our Facebook page is facebook.com/Story Matters Podcast. And you can email me directly at storymatterspodcast@gmail.com with your ideas, thoughts, guests you'd like to see, maybe some of your own stories that I'd love to be able to share on the episode. So hit me up. I'm there. And guys, thank you so much for listening. I will see you guys next